Hey guys, this is Pushkaraj Shirke from Project Battlefit, and today actually I'm going to discuss on a topic that is generally a bit different from what I generally talk about, and that is depression and mental health. This is a topic I was going to talk about because a student of mine, a friend of mine, mailed me a bunch of questions regarding this, asking about it. And this mail has come on 11th of June, and the very next day when I was supposed to answer it, Sushant Rajput committed suicide, and then everybody just jumped the bandwagon, whether they had any knowledge on the topic or not, and just became a shitfest, and I didn't want to be a part of that. So I kept quiet. I did not make a video till then, let it pass. And now I think it's about time I can talk about it sincerely without making this a video for likes and going viral and all that shit, and keep it real like I've always wanted it to be, because this is a topic that is actually very close to me. I myself have been manic depressive. There is no treating it. But the only thing is that with time and with experience and with help, I have become more and more capable of dealing with it. So I manage it better. In fact, my very first blog was called A Weird Little Strange Life, and it developed as my diary to deal with my bouts of depression. And then it evolved into becoming one of India's top 100 most read blogs at that time, dealing with poetry and short stories and articles based on my own experiences with how my moods went up and down. A lot of my previous poetry just stemmed out of me dealing with depression, and that is actually how I deal with depression. Everybody has different tools to deal with it. I choose to focus on creatively channeling it and reminding myself that I need to stay out of this and alive just till the next morning. Once the morning comes on, the brain resets and I feel a little better again, and I'm then not on a downer. So this is how I've learned to manage it, and there's no point talking logic or explaining strength. Although you have so many friends, you have so many riches, you have done this, you have done that, and everything. You don't need to clear. It doesn't work, because when you're depressed, when you're in that spell, your brain does not respond to logic. Your brain does not respond to reasoning. It's a chemical shutdown in your brain. You are not going to respond to any kind of explanations, no matter how logical they are. So you just need to figure out pointers that will keep you going through it and stop you from taking decisions that you might not really want to be taking, but you end up taking because your brain is in that loop at that time. So I personally write, paint, photograph, write poetry, and just remind myself that I have to just keep myself out and awake till daylight. It's impossible to sleep when I'm in a depressive spell, so I will not sleep. I'll be awake, and being awake with those thoughts constantly running through your head is not easy. So you need to find out what you can deal with it and how you can deal with it. You need to find your own methods, and that will only come with proper guidance and a lot of experience, and those experiences can be painful. So anyways, back to the questions that Atri had sent me, Divya Atri. So she says, as I'm learning more and more about correct nutrition, it seems like the solution to everything. It's amazing how if we just eat the right things, the magic happens. So is correct nutrition and exercise the cure to mental health issues such as PTSD, schizophrenia, phobias, anxiety, and depression? Can you cure them without professional help from a therapist? So, first off, they are not cures, okay? I am a manic depressive even today. There is no curing it, okay? You can learn, as I mentioned, ways to deal with it, ways to keep off the spells, ways to tackle the spells, but you cannot cure it. And especially PTSD and schizophrenia and anxiety, you are not going to be able to fix it permanently with food. Yes, food definitely helps. It's a reason why fish oils are a constant part of my diet, whether I'm training or not training, whether I'm trying to lose fat, gain muscle, anything. Fish oil never, ever, ever leaves my diet. And that is because it really helps keep the brain functioning well. Whether it's for PTSD, schizophrenia, depression, anxiety, anything, fish oil is a great supplement for the brain. So yeah, again, there's another thing that affects your moods, and that's your gut health. If you keep binging on junk food, the microbiomes in your gut start triggering all the wrong kinds of signal to your brain, putting it in a depressive loop, and you want to avoid that. Then there's a balance of leptin and ghrelin, the hormones that control your sense and your feeling of hunger and lethargy, and in turn guide your emotions over time. So it's very, very, very important to eat healthy, keep your mind and your gut clean and well nourished if you are dealing with any kind of mental stress. And it's easier said than done, because the minute you are stressed or mentally fatigued, your gut reaction is to reach out for comfort foods, and all comfort foods are junk. Like, it's rarely possible that a comfort food is healthy for your situation. It's actually going to push you just further downhill, which is why it's important to make it a lifestyle, to follow healthy eating habits and have the right things in your diet on a regular basis, than to try to rush to them when you are on a downer already. Because the fact is, the minute you hit a heavy downer, you are going to end up going off diet and off your track. But if for the rest of the 365 days or 364 days you have eaten right and you've eaten all the good things, you are much more well built to deal with that downslide when it happens, and it won't push you so much off the railing. Alright? So that is why I constantly maintain fitness and good nutrition as a part of my diet, because I hate having a depressive spell. Right now it's been about a year and a half or 2 years since I've had my last depressive spell, which is a lot of time. Okay, fingers crossed. And it's good, because I hate those moments, I hate those times. Yes, I'm extremely creative at that time, but that creativity comes at a cost, and over time I've realized that that creativity is not really worth it. So I like to be sensible. I like to burn slowly rather than burn out, and keep the creative juices flowing rather than just boom, drop into depression and create amazing work and then boom, pop out again, because you never know what happens at the end of that one heavy downslide. So avoid that. So, and without professional help from a therapist, okay, so if your condition is serious, like if you are suffering from PTSD or schizophrenia and severe anxiety disorder, you definitely must visit a therapist. Nothing beats getting professional help. Yes, professional help in India, I admit, is very, very, very difficult, especially if you're dealing with something complex. It's very difficult to even get therapists who actually genuinely understand your situation. And if you are, let's say, on a different side of the normal spectrum, there are very few therapists who will also not be judgmental about you. So it's a very fine line to tread there. So I found one therapist after many years, and then she died, and it took me a long time to even trust opening up to any other therapist, because I'm very protective about whom I talk to, about what I have to talk about. Anyways, so yes, my best friends and my closest friends and the people I love, I do open up to them, but there are things that a professional can guide you very effectively through, that is just too much expecting that from a friend, unless your friend is already a professional at that, right? And again, there's the bias that creeps in when the professional is your friend, which is why you do not have a psychologist or a counselor who is your friend ideally or in any way connected to you. Okay, It's considered unethical also for that reasons, because once you have developed that bias, it's very difficult to take a very objective look at the person you are counseling, treating, or dealing with. So yes, definitely visit a professional. It takes a while to find a good professional, but look for references, look for people who have been to that person, talk to those people and what their interactions have been, and then choose a professional. Okay, so the next question is, are women more susceptible to having mental health issues? A lot of mental health issues actually are more prevalent in women, and that is partly because of the biology and partly because of society and the way the society is built. A lot of pressures mount up to women that they cannot deal with, and they're constantly dealing with it, not speaking about, and gets pent up over years and years and time. Plus there's the biological flux of hormones happening every month, which is chaotic. Like, imagine this. Imagine if I was a woman and I'm manic depressive and my hormones are a little topsy-turvy, and in the middle of this little topsy-turvy comes my menstrual cycle, which makes that little topsy-turvy extremely topsy-turvy. So now I'm dealing this on a monthly basis, and I don't know when it is just the upheaval of my menstrual cycle that's throwing my emotions up and down, or if I'm actually getting triggered into depression. So I don't even know how to deal with it then, because I'm confused. Okay, is this or that? So it becomes very difficult to deal with it for those reasons. So it's not that only women get affected by psychological disorders, but yes, a lot of them become very difficult to identify and deal with because of the social structure and the biological aspects of being a woman. Okay, so next question was, many times people don't seek the help they require because of the fear of side effects of antidepressant medicines. Can you throw some light on that? Okay, very first thing, the minute you are going to a counselor, there's a difference between a counselor and a psychiatrist. Okay, a counselor is not going to junk you onto medicines immediately. That's why you need to visit a counselor first. See what's the root of your issues, explore them, learn behavioral techniques of dealing with them, learn to identify your patterns, learn to develop methods or find out ways that you are better at to use for coping with those issues. Then if it still doesn't work, a counselor will most likely send you to a psychiatrist, okay, who will then prescribe medication to deal with the issues. Okay, so it's not that the minute you go to a counselor you're going to be dumped on with medication. That's an extremely wrong perspective that comes from a lot of shitty Bollywood movies, and a lot of even popular media talks about what mental health is supposed to be, but it is not so. The very first step towards mental health is counseling and not psychiatry. Psychiatry is a much later stage. Your antidepressant medications and all will come at a much later stage, not immediately, unless you are suffering from PTSD due to rape or any other kind of trauma, attack, brutal attack, witnessing a murder of your family member or something like that. Then you might need to be put on medication directly as a countermeasure or just to be safe, but generally you will never be put on antidepressants directly just because you went and spoke about depression. Okay, of course there are side effects to antidepressants, shitloads of side effects, but then it's about choosing the lesser evil. What would you rather deal with? Would you rather deal with you ending up killing yourself one morning, or would you rather deal with a slight hive and an allergy and constant feeling of lethargy or pukishness or nausea for a few days? I think I'd always pick the second. But yes, after a time, taking medication gets really frustrating. And once you learn to deal with it and once you learn to accept yourself, you sometimes reach a point where you just are able to deal with your condition without medication, especially if it's just manic depression or depression. For severe things like schizophrenia, I don't think you can ever get off depression. That risk is just get off medication, because that risk is just not worth it. And there is no real way to get off medication for that. But antidepressants, yes, you can eventually wean yourself off them, and that is how it should be. I don't see anybody ever completely just living off antidepressants all their life. That is not how it works. If any psychologist or counselor or psychiatrist has ever told you that, that person has misguided you. Okay? The whole purpose should be to use them as a crutch while you learn to walk on your own feet and out of your situation. Okay? If it is as chronic as being consistently depressed entirely for life, then there's something extremely wrong in that situation. That's an extreme measure, and it's highly, highly, highly unlikely that you are one of those, even though sometimes when you are depressed you might think you are, but it is not so, right? That's like 0.001% or something. The next question she had asked was how to decide whether to visit a psychiatrist or a psychologist. So I already explained that. You first go to a counselor or a psychologist, and then if they need to intervene with medication, they will send you to a psychiatrist. You never jump to a psychiatrist directly. It's like this: if you have a problem, if you directly try to fix it with medication without getting to the root of it, without diagnosing it properly, you are not really solving the problem. You're just killing the symptom, and that is the worst thing you can do. I understand that modern medicine is pretty much all about that, where you are more focused on treating the symptoms rather than treating the disease and the disorder. Diabetes being one example, where people just go from low levels of metformin to higher levels of metformin, and eventually just injecting insulin all their life, rather than fixing the problem, which is fixing their diet and lifestyle, adding exercise, adding good nutrition, cutting out carbs and sugar, so that they do not become dependent on insulin. But yeah, the whole purpose of healing should be to avoid medication as far as possible, and if you're using medication, use it as a crutch, not as a lifestyle. Okay, so first visit a counselor or a psychologist, and then they escalate it to a psychiatrist if needed. Okay, so could it be possible for one person to have multiple anxiety disorders? Oh, definitely. I personally know so many people who have anxiety disorders that are like a looping chain. So first it's anxiety, then loops in paranoia, then loops in OCD, then loops in depression, and it's a circle that just keeps on going. So you really need to get to the root of that, learn behavioral skills to manage that, and it's not like a one pill fixes all for any of these. Like, no matter how many conditions you have, there's no one magic pill that is going to fix it all. You have to learn behavioral management techniques to deal with these, and a lot of them are actually quite simple. A lot of them can be complex depending on your situation. Like, there are people who can deal with depression with something as simple as just doodling their thoughts on paper. The simple act of maintaining a daily journal, or writing a diary, or writing a notes to an imaginary friend or a friend every time they feel low or down, or making it a daily, nightly routine of life, really works keeping them off getting depressed for a long, long time. And for some people it's a lot more complex than that, which is why you need to actually talk about it to a professional and figure out ways that you can handle these things for yourself. Okay, how effective is hypnotherapy therapy? Okay, so hypnosis does not work on everybody, and on the people it works, the person has to be accepting of the hypnosis for it to work on them. So hypnosis personally has never worked on me. I have never been hypnotized, and hypnotherapy also has never worked for me. But there are people who swear by it and who love it. So unless you try it, and unless you know people who have actually benefited from it, I don't recommend you go for it. And don't spend a lot of money on it unless it has really like given you benefits or has worked for you within the first session itself a little bit. All right, because there are a lot of quacks out there, and it's a bit of a messy field. I know a really good example of a person who benefited from hypnotherapy for addiction purposes, but then I don't know what that person's scenario is, because a lot of things that person says I do not really trust. So I don't know. Here I'm on the fence about hypnotherapy. So you'll have to give it a shot, ask people for whom it has worked, and if it has worked for them, then you maybe go try it out, and if it really helps you, then continue with it. Otherwise, don't waste your money in it. So, how do people who cannot afford therapy reach out for help? Suicide helplines in India are pretty much useless. True that, actually. So, financial burden of getting good psychological help is tough. Not everybody can afford it. So, the helplines, I agree, are pretty useless. But then, if you don't have money, beggars can't be choosers, then you have to try to make do with what is available. And if that helps, great. If it doesn't, hard luck. So, for example, I myself went to seek help very, very late. Very late as in my terms, that would be early, because I started my career pretty early. I started working when I was 15. And the first time I actually went out and sought help was when I was 21, end of 21, 22, yeah. So, because by that time, then I was making money to like go actually spend $500 for a session and get help, which really helped me. So that was a good thing. So that's the only option. You have to figure out your priorities. $500 at that time was the cost of going to a club one night, like entry for a club. I'm like, okay, rather than going clubbing, let's go get help. So that's the only way you'll have to prioritize. You find ways to find money, you decide what's more important for you, and spend your money accordingly. Obviously, nobody's going to open up their therapy and say, oh, okay, fuck it, I don't want to make money, I'm going to do all of this for free. Not going to happen. If it happens, great, but I don't know anybody I can recommend you to who would give anybody any help for free unless it's a personal case. So that's fair. If you want professional help, pay professional fees, always. And that's for every profession. So, next question was, are pre-workout supplements bad for people suffering from mental health issues, as stimulants such as caffeine lead to more anxiety? Okay, now this one pretty much hit the nail on the head. And this is exactly why I hate, and I'm being very clear about it, I hate, capital HATE, hate psychotropic pre-workout supplements. It was pretty trendy to put in geranium into pre-workout supplements before the ingredient got banned, and this I'm talking of, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And internationally it got banned, but it wasn't banned in India yet. So what all companies did, there was a very famous company called Jack 3D, which used to make a geranium-based pre-workout supplement. So as soon as the stocks got banned abroad, they dumped that entire stock into India, and Indian supplement shops were selling it left, right, and center. And every time I took that fucking supplement, it used to give me a crazy head buzz. Like throughout the workout, I'm completely pumped, I'm up there, I'm driven. But after that, the crash that fucking hits you is insane. Like I would just go low, and it was miserable. And that is how I actually found out that it's using psychotropic elements that are not legal. And this was just before I got into fitness and nutrition and studied nutrition myself. So I had a first-hand experience of how it works, and I have hated these supplements left, right, and center. All these supplements that use psychotropic drugs. Grenade was another brand that used to use a psychotropic supplement like ingredient in the pre-workout, because it makes you mentally feel kicked and driven, and you're like pushing yourself in the gym, running, doing cardio, whatever. You're driven, but after that the crash just fucking kills you. It's miserable. Which is why I also make it a habit not to get used to pre-workout supplements, because yes, that high is great, it pushes you through, but then that crash is not worth it. And pre-workout supplements are in a way addictive, because the more and more you use them, the more and more resistant your body gets to them. So do not make pre-workout supplements a habit. I do use a pre-workout, okay, but I only use a pre-workout when it's absolutely essential. I've had a very busy day at work, I'm extremely tired, I haven't had sleep, but I haven't even had a workout in the past 7 days, and next week might be busy again, so there's no way I can bunk a workout today. I have to get my workout in today. Only then I will take a pre-workout. And by the way, my perspective even towards this is changing now, because now I'm becoming of the mindset that if I'm extremely really tired and not being able to put in, it's okay, chill. It's not a race. I'm going to take some time off, sleep it off. Tomorrow is a new day. Let's work out then. And this has actually been extremely healthy for me. Earlier I used to be guilty about taking even a day off from training. Okay, I had literally turned into this gym rat kind of creature, which was not a healthy thing. I identified it luckily pretty quickly. And now I'm pretty comfortable even if I have to take a week off for health reasons, right? Because fatigue does mount up. You cannot keep dumping in stimulants to keep you going up and keep you going at training. It's okay to take a little time off, let your body and mind heal, and then get back into it. You're not going to lose much. Your life and your health is way more important than just a few visible abs and some great PRs that you're going to stroke in the gym. Unfortunately, actors who are on a schedule are under a lot of stress to be ripped for a certain shoot schedule, and they are pushed to do it. They have to do it. But again, if you're an actor, if you're that high paid an individual, if you're a professional athlete, if that is your career, you don't mind spending later on to help your body deal with the aftermath of that. And even while you're doing that, you should do it, you should indulge in it knowing of these consequences. Not just because some random trainer you have hired, who's a celebrity trainer, is telling you, oh, no, dude, go push it, you can do it, yeah, you're dump in this and inject fucking Termin and inject unnecessary substances into your body. That is just bullshit and is never fucking worth it. And it makes more sense to have a much more stable, balanced approach towards workout and training, rather than just keeping on pushing yourself endlessly time after time. Alright, I love training heavy, I love training hard. Okay, I train twice a day. There was a point in time I was training thrice a day, because twice a day I was doing MMA and Krav Maga, and then I was doing strength training as well on the very same day. So I love heavy training, do not get that wrong. But then if your body and mind ever reach a point of fatigue, it's okay to say, alright, I pushed it too far, I'm tired, I'm going to take a break. And that's okay, right? So, and the final question from Divya is, how do people suffering from such issues find the motivation or energy to carry out their day-to-day activities? So, such issues is a very broad spectrum, but since I started talking about depression, I'm going to talk about pushing yourself through the day if you have depression. Very first thing, it's extremely fucking difficult. If you are in a depressive spell and the depressive spell is long lasting, it's very difficult to push yourself out of bed, wanting to get out of bed, put yourself into doing any kind of work. Even meeting friends or going out, you do not feel like doing any of that shit. So it's very, very, very difficult, which is why you need to learn coping mechanisms. Alright? For me, it's, as I mentioned, all kinds of creative pursuits. Writing, poetry, writing notes, writing diaries, doodling, drawing, photography. So I try to indulge myself in that and then sneak in a little more work, schedule my day in parts, schedule my day in bits, and keep a reward at the end of each bit. And that is how I have learned to deal with it. Building discipline and routine as a part of your life is extremely, extremely important. Right? If you have a routine, if you have a pattern that you have set for yourself, it really helps you to push through even on days where you mentally are too broken to push through. because you've set that routine, you've set that pattern. So somewhere in your mind, that becomes your comfort zone and you're very comfortable being in that. It's like cheating yourself into doing the things that you do not want to do, but still do it because it's good for you. Alright, so I break my day into every hourly parts. So I break my day into 10 segments, and each segment is reserved for something, and that is how I plan my day, and that is how I keep pushing through my day of work, training, exercise, everything. I juggle 4 careers today, and the only way I manage that is by scheduling every hour as a slot of time, and that time is allotted for something specific. Once that's done, I move on to the next slot, and the next slot, and the next slot, and so on, with some treats or motivators for me in between. Alright, so developing self-discipline and routine is something that is extremely important, whether or not you're depressed, whether or not what your scenario is with any kind of mental health issues, because it's also one way that I have seen some of the most amazing people I've dealt with in life professionally, that these guys really internally follow that. They don't even know that they are following it, but they really do follow it. They have a routine, they have a discipline to their lifestyle, and it really helps you achieve a lot of things that just throwing things to the wind would not achieve for you. So I hope this little talk helped. I hope it helped you, Divya, and I hope it helps the friends who have been talking to you, and I hope it helps everybody who has spent their time listening to this. If you would like to put out more content regarding mental health, do write to me and tell me about it, and I will be happy to do so. Though I am not a professional psychologist, I have done my majors in psychology, I've studied a lot of counseling, and for the reason that I thought that a person who has gone through a lot of shit in life himself should not be a counselor, I did not pursue psychology as a profession. Very funny, but with age and time I understood that actually it makes me more capable of helping people with issues, because I happen to have seen segments of life that most people can't even dream of. I'm capable of putting myself in shoes that a lot of people are in, that they feel that nobody else could have ever walked in, which is a very unique thing and a very helpful thing, and allows me a level of empathy to deal with situations that people find it very difficult to open up about. And that is how I end up talking about this. Though it's still not a profession for me, I'm always happy to help out people that need help and then guide them to a professional who could actually help them out professionally without the barrier of friendship in between. Alright, so this is Pushkaraj Shiruke for Project Battlefit. Do like, share and subscribe if this helped you, and do subscribe to the channel, because then that allows me to create good content and put it out for free, and this is free, so make the most of it. Alright, this is Project Battlefit. See you guys, stay strong, stay awesome.